I'm Sita Fay, Director of External Affairs.
I'm Jamie Buck, Director of Innovation.
This is Fundamental, the podcast from NYSIF, the organization at the intersection of finance, health, business, and labor in New York.
Well, today we have the pleasure of having Kristin Markwica with us. We're thrilled to have her here. Kristin is the Director of Disability Benefits and Paid Family Leave here for us at NYSIF. She is also a huge Buffalo Bills fan.
I sure am.
Maybe we'll talk about that later, maybe not.
Thanks, Jamie. It's great to be here.
Shouldn't we address it right up front at the top? We're recording this in January for your February listening, and it's been tough. It's been tough.
Full disclosure.
Full disclosure. Jumping into table season is over for the year, but that is okay. That actually really segues into a lot of what Kristin does when we're talking about what is disability. We're talking about injuries, and we're talking about off-the-job injuries. Would a table jump qualify, Kristin, as an off-the-job injury?
That would definitely qualify. And as big of a fan as I am, I think my orthopedic surgeon would be happy to know that I will not be doing that anytime soon.
Lessons learned.
It's fantastic. We brought Kristin here today because one of the things that we're always trying to do on the pod is make insurance accessible to everyone to understand different lines of insurance. So at NYSIF, you've heard us talk so far a little bit about our workers' compensation line, but Kristin's really the head of disability and paid family leave, another line where we have a lot of expertise here. And so, Kristin, welcome. We're really excited to hear about disability and what it means and why an everyday New Yorker should care about their coverage and how we can make this accessible to employers so they can understand what their coverage options are, because this is something that everybody needs.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to also announce some great news for 2026.
Let's start there. I mean, 2026, you can't lead with that. Then let's not, tell us, what about 2026? What's so exciting?
So in 2026, I'm happy to report that we've been able to reduce our premium, the rates that we're charging for disability benefits premium, by over 28%. Excited to be able to offer this up for businesses in New York State because it is a required coverage for them to have.
28%. Listen, affordability is an issue on everyone's mind. How's NYSIF been able to do this while some of our other competitors are moving in the opposite direction? Talk about this lowered rate.
Yeah, well, affordability has always been front of mind at NYSIF. We've historically provided customers with low cost, if not the lowest cost, options for disability benefits coverage in New York State. NYSIF has also offered and will continue to offer two very unique dividend programs, which provide refunds to eligible policyholders with favorable claims experience. So now I'm very proud to announce that NYSIF, as of, again, January 1st, is offering this even lower competitive rate for disability benefits coverage at a time when costs for most goods and services are going through the roof. So not only is it a lower standard rate, it's the same rate for all employees, regardless of gender, which is very uncommon in the industry and sets us apart from other carriers.
Wait a minute. So Jamie and I identify she, he. So it doesn't matter, but you're telling me if I went somewhere else, I would be charged more? That's what the calculus is?
That is very correct. Most carriers in New York State will charge more for female employees because of the maternity leave component of disability benefits. So we are, again, very happy to provide this at a gender-neutral rate.
It is a really big deal that we're doing that here in New York State. So not only are we 110 years old, we're actually in this century and moving forward. I'm very proud about that. Historically, women have been charged higher rates than men, sometimes more than double. Women making up approximately half of the state's workforce, gender-neutral DB rates level the playing field. Talk to us a little bit more about that.
Well, Sita, that really goes back to our mission. NYSIF strives to be an industry leader in price, quality, and service for New York State employers.
Anytime that I can be charged the same rate as Jamie and not more, I'm in.
In our space, getting a notification about prices going down, people are probably shocked with that, right? That's not something that's commonplace. So can you share a little bit more about how we positioned ourselves to be able to do that and make that change?
Sure. I actually think it's a pretty simple answer. NYSIF's delivering on its mission, which is to guarantee the availability of workers' compensation, disability insurance, and paid family leave at the lowest possible cost to New York employers while maintaining a solvent fund. We ensure a fair marketplace, and we are serving as a guaranteed source of coverage for employers who cannot secure coverage elsewhere.
Love that guaranteed source. Mm-hmm. Kristin, so you're telling me it's the same product, a lower rate. What's the catch? What's the change behind the scenes? Am I still going to be able to talk to my underwriter? Am I still going to be able to reach the contact center? Do I still have the same coverage? If I'm a policyholder, this sounds really good. This sounds too good to be true. I know Sita works in marketing. I'm going to do the third person and communication. So same great rate, same great service. Talk about what somebody gets when you have a policy with NYSIF.
Sure. So, after careful analysis, we recognize that we could lower our rates for disability benefits coverage even more than we already have been doing, while still providing all the same great benefits and service. NYSIF's been writing disability benefits coverage since the program was introduced in 1950. And I think it's safe to say we are experts in this field. With a NYSIF disability benefits policy, our policyholders are assigned a dedicated case manager who can walk you through the process if the need for a claim arises. Underwriters are on standby to answer any questions about billing and the management of your policy. And again, I just want to reiterate, it's a competitive price that we're offering without jeopardizing the service.
Ultimately, who pays for this benefit? Is it the employee? Is it the employer? Where does this 28% savings come in?
That's a great question, Sita. So I just want to point out that unlike workers' compensation coverage, which is fully funded by the employer, employers have the option to withhold 0.5% of an employee's weekly wage, up to a maximum of 60 cents per week, to contribute towards the cost of DB premium. So even with NYSIF's low rate, employers do not have to solely bear the cost of that premium.
NYSIF lowered its rates 28% for its employers, but what does that mean for the employees?
Well, the good news is that nothing is changing there. The same benefit will still apply that was in place prior to this decrease in the rate. So employees are entitled to, again, the 50% of their average weekly wage capped at $170 a week for the statutory coverage. And of course, that goes up if the employer elects the Enriched Benefit Plan.
So, Kristin, from what I'm taking away from that, then it's a net win for everybody, employers
Absolutely.
and employees. So, excellent.
Come to NYSIF.
Outstanding. So one of the things I kind of looked ahead in preparation for our discussion, the notion or the concept of offering enriched benefits. Talk a little bit more about that. I know there's like a specific dollar amount threshold as well. And to Sita's point, how does that work? How are we able to do that?
Sure. So statutory, what's referred to as statutory coverage, is the minimum amount of coverage required by New York state law. So NYSIF recognized that employers may want to offer even greater benefits for their employees. In 2010, began offering customers an option for enriched benefits. So what does that mean? A business may elect up to 5 times the statutory coverage to provide a greater benefit to their employees. The statutory benefits in New York State right now are capped at $170 a week, which makes it challenging for most employees to take the benefit because of affordability reasons. If an employer opted for the 5 times enriched coverage, for example, that means the maximum weekly benefit would jump to $850 a week. So employees might be working through injuries and not be able to give it their all. A greater benefit will allow employees to take the leave they need to get back to 100%.
When a person is injured, what's the first thing that they should be thinking about? A lot of times they're thinking about how serious is this injury? What's my recovery? Working with their medical provider? And am I going to be out of work and what that means? Talk about what disability does to fill that gap.
Sure. So disability benefits in New York State offers employees with coverage if they are injured or have an illness outside of work, right? So it wasn't something that occurred while on the job. And that also does include, like I mentioned earlier, maternity benefits. Roughly 30% of our disability benefit claims are for maternity leave. So there's non-maternity and maternity leave benefits. Those employees would file a form with their insurance carrier, but there's 3 components to that form. Their medical provider will certify the need for the leave. Their employer will give us, some very basic employment information, such as their average weekly wage, so that we can garner the appropriate benefit that they'll be entitled to. And the employee, of course, would provide details about the injury or illness on the form. If they are eligible for the benefit, there's a 1-week wait period before that benefit would begin. And eligible employees may receive 50% of their average weekly wage, and that's capped at the $170 a week, like I mentioned, for statutory benefits. And they can take that leave, obviously at the direction of their medical provider, for up to 26 weeks in a 52-week period.
So that really does help close the gap.
So kind of shifting gears slightly, Kristin, one of the things that you've been instrumental in doing since you've joined NYSIF is starting the PFL program, or our paid family leave program. Can you talk to our audience a little bit more in detail about what that means and who's eligible for that program?
Absolutely. So it was a very exciting time. The paid family leave program in New York State was implemented in 2018 right when I was coming on board. So in addition to workers' compensation and disability benefits, most private employers in New York York State are required to have paid family leave coverage for their employees. PFL, we like to say, because we love our acronyms in insurance, PFL is a rider on a disability benefits policy. This program was actually phased in, and it was fully phased in by 2021. And PFL, what it is it can serve as a safety net for workers faced with family caregiving needs. An employee can take up to 12 weeks of leave in a 52-week period for one of 3 different qualifying reasons. The first, which is by far the most popular, is to take leave to bond with either a newly born, fostered, or adopted child. Roughly 80% of all PFL claims are for child bonding, so definitely the most popular. The second reason would be to care for a family member with a serious condition or illness. And that list of family members is quite expansive, including a spouse, domestic partner, child, parent, parent-in-law, grandparent, grandchild, and as of 1/1/23, siblings. And then the third leave type is what's referred to as a military exigency. A person may take leave to handle family pressures while a loved one is deployed overseas. For whatever reason, this is very underutilized. I'm not sure if it's an issue with education on the topic, but we'd love to see more people taking advantage of this great benefit.
Thanks so much for that. So, Kristin, on PFL, what kind of insights do we have, as we're working through that? Are there particular groups that we can tell today, hey, you're eligible, and kind of push to those audiences?
Sure. I would say, when the program was first implemented in 2018, there was certainly a larger population of female employees that were taking the benefits. Gradually, as we moved forward and the program was rolling out, there was an increasing utilization by male employees. However, I think there's still some opportunity out there. I think there might be employees who are foregoing these benefits that might be entitled to them. So it'd be great to get increased usage.
Oh, man, Jamie, imagine if when you had your kids, if you had PFL available.
It's funny, as we were talking through this, I was thinking about the dates, and I'm like, yep, missed that, because that would have been outstanding opportunity to do that.
The great thing about paid family leave as well is, I mentioned the 12 weeks in a 52-week period, but a person does not need to take that leave all at once. It can be spread out amongst the 52 weeks, so that 12 weeks can be taken intermittently, which is a great thing, especially for new parents.
Yeah, it
makes
that
all the difference, right?
Yeah, you can have time and then
Mr. Fay and I are not so recent. They just turned 4 and 6, but he was in a different position for his first role and had full access to PFL. And it made all the difference in the world for me and at home. And then when we did welcome our second, he did not have access to PFL. And it was a struggle. It wasn't just a struggle because it was number 2. And I think about the privilege that we were really fortunate at the time to have with PFL. And I'm really glad this is a state policy. I also appreciate it's something that we can offer to families, because it's not just, we've talked a little bit about the sandwich generation. If people choose to have families or children, that's one utilization. But the military leave is something that's often not thought of as much. It's encouraging for fathers to really be able to go out there. And another piece of the puzzle is with that sandwich generation that I've discussed, some of us have a lot of elder care that we are facing and challenges that I think that I'm not sure we spent all of our time thinking about, that we'd be in this position. And PFL allows us to do that as well.
It's amazing. The flexibility and the options that are there for New Yorkers is excellent. And, just for me personally, that sandwich generation is things that are coming, things to think about. And, knowing that there are options there to help with some of those potential challenges.
Absolutely.
Is reassuring.
At our core, each guest brings a different wealth of experience and expertise to the podcast. When we talk about fundamentals, we're diving deeper to really learn about the individual, what motivates them, what are their fundamentals, mentorship, inspiration, and words to live by.
Now for the fundamentals. So, Kristin, what we like to do on the podcast is what we call our fundamental questions. We ask the guests that we have the opportunity to speak with a series of fundamental questions. So what we'd like to ask you is, given you've had the opportunity to work in various leadership roles, both public and private sectors, and now you're in the senior leadership role at NYSIF, what's your fundamental advice for other executives?
Sure. I had a hard time with this, to be honest with you, Jamie, but I'd say off the top of my head, what I came up with was don't stop at the hiring, right? So that's just the beginning. Spend the time to mentor and engage with your staff, learn about what they're doing and ways in which to support them so that they're reaching their full potential. Make it a point to know what it is that they're working on and all that they do for you.
Love that. Thank you for that. Given you've had an opportunity to work here with the state and you've worked in some very large firms, what's been helpful for you? Who's been a mentor to you? How does that inform how you go about your day-to-day, how you lead, how you inspire your teams?
Sure. So I'm not sure that I can narrow that down to one person, but I can say that I have a soft spot in my heart for small businesses. My parents ran a few different businesses when I was growing up. My husband also runs his own business. So I know firsthand that it takes a lot of sacrifice, long days and nights with challenges and expenses, which are both anticipated and unanticipated around every corner. So, again, I've learned it takes a lot of patience and flexibility to be successful. You're very often solving problems under pressure. So I think having been exposed to all of that growing up, my parents certainly acted as mentors, knowingly or unknowingly. And then also being able to share in my husband's successes have helped shape me into who I am and where I get my strong work ethic from.
That's awesome. Maybe to kind of round out this segment, I should say, is there one kind of guiding principle that you leverage here at NYSIF for yourself, for your own motivation, and for others?
Sure. I would say empathy and compassion. Helping others has really been a theme for me in my life. I love to solve problems, whether it's helping a customer, a coworker, staff member, or even friends and family. I'll admit I never thought I'd have a career in insurance with an environmental degree. But in hindsight, it really doesn't surprise me that I'm now in charge of running a department that ultimately provides benefits to people in need. And that's very rewarding.
It's excellent. Well, you certainly are kind of paying that forward. You're helping us here, certainly at NYSIF. You're helping New York State employees and employers. So we're lucky to have you here within the organization. We're lucky to have you here, spend some time with us on the pod. Hopefully you'll come back. We can talk more insurance. We can talk bills. We can talk Patriots.
Happy to be here. Yes, yeah. Hopefully it's a better outcome the next time we talk about the bills.
Kristin, thank you again. Thanks for being here. Listen, if one of our listeners was thinking about gender neutral rates, saving 28%, what can they do? Who can they contact? Where do they go?
Sure. I would encourage businesses to visit our website at NYSIF.com and get a quote. See how much you can save. If you like what you see, and I'm confident that you will, the application process is very simple. After entering some basic information about your business and answering some short questions, most small businesses can bind coverage in a matter of hours. And then don't forget about the enriched benefit options. Be a hero to your employees. It's a way to show them that they're valued and provide them with greater coverage for when they might need it most, when they're sick or injured or when they're going through that already challenging time of growing their family.
All right. Thank you.
Kristin, thank you so much.
Thank you.
This is Fundamental, the podcast from NYSIF.